Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Ranking Member, for holding this hearing today. And let me just briefly echo my friend and colleague, Mr. Finstad's comments about the working nature of this committee and how much it's appreciated. It truly is. It's very refreshing for someone who's been outside of politics their whole lives to come in and see that people actually do work here, which is great. Thank you to the witnesses for being here today and the sacrifices you made to be with us and your expertise. In my district in Southern Ohio, I have 16 counties virtually, all of which are Appalachian, 4 of the 5 poorest counties in Ohio, 9 of the 20 poorest. Believe it or not, there are still people living without running water. They have to haul water to their homes to drink and bathe. To me, in 2025, that's unacceptable. And helping rural communities is the reason I ran for Congress in the first place. USDA Rural Development has been a great partner to many areas within Southern Ohio, but I use that story to highlight that there is much more work to be done. And I believe several of the rural development programs could help us bridge the gap to get everyone connected to basic utilities. Everyone in the United States, regardless of their address, should be able to receive running water. Ms. Forbes, in your testimony, you spoke about the water programs within USDA quite a bit and how they have benefited rural communities. So if you could, tell me what we can do as Congress to ensure that all Americans, regardless of how rural their home may be, have access to running water.
Thank you for the question. So in a former life, many, many years ago, I worked for the Department of Environment and Natural Resources in South Dakota. And my first job was working with large-scale reauthorization projects to bring and get authorized rural water systems in South Dakota. So things at Minnie-Wauchonee to get water to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, to Mid-Dakota, Lewis and Clark. So those are high price ticket items, and they require a high federal investment. A lot of that came in the form of an 80% grant through an allocation, and then the state provided at least a 10% match, if not more. But when you're talking about some of your constituents that clearly seem to be some of the more poverty-stricken, getting rural water is a blessing, but then you have to pay for it when you get it. And so it's a balancing act of how much can they afford to pay. In the same vein, I've seen a lot of people that have been willing to pay for rural water because but then you turn around and say, do you want to do a regional wastewater system, and what's that going to cost? And I had a project we looked at not too long ago, and we said even if we could get them 100% grant to do a regional wastewater, it still meant that they had to do O&M of $10 a month, and that's not huge, but they already had additional costs that they had as well. So it's going to take a large federal investment, and the grant funding becomes a key part of that because you have to really try to balance what can they afford to pay for when this thing's all said and done.
Right, I appreciate that. One related problem in a lot of my district is they've got very old water infrastructure, so people are paying for it. They're actually paying more than you would if you could have the new infrastructure, but how do you get from where you are today paying too much to upkeep a 80-year-old system to having a new system where you would actually end up paying less? It'll be less expense in operation, but thank you. Mr. Heimel, switching topics to rural health. In your testimony, you talked about how rural health care needs aren't going away and how in many regards those needs are growing more urgent. That is certainly the case in my district. My district, as I mentioned, struggles on both metrics of health outcomes and healthcare access. I'm optimistic that the new $50 billion Rural Health Transformation Program that was created in the Working Families Tax Cut Act will help. I think that program recognizes rural areas are facing unique health challenges that our larger cities are not, and I think it is a big step in the right direction. But I'm curious, from your perspective as a county commissioner of a rural county, what do you see as the keys to improving rural health outcomes, and how can USDA help achieve those improvements?
Well, fundamentally, keeping the funding programs that have been historically supporting rural health care in place is a huge one. We need to look at new solutions in rural communities. The old models aren't working, and we need to have the capacity to pull together models that might be combining with another county, or combining with other entities in the region, and looking at a new way of delivering it. And we need the funding. It takes inventive thinking, and it takes different funding sources. It's a fundamental issue, and it's really pushing up to the crisis level in rural America.
Thank you, sir, and thank you again to all of you for being here today. Chairman, I yield back.